There are Title VI forms on the back table. If you care to fill all those out, you can turn it in. If you'd all stand, as so this is the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Heavenly Father, we gather here tonight to take care of this county's business. It's all pleasing in your eyes. We ask that everyone has open ears, open eyes, and an open heart, and an open mind. Be no bickering and all things done in your will. We ask this in your name. Amen. Corrections?
I didn't plan anything. It's April 15th. I did not hear. I moved to approve the minutes. Second.
Claims. And I had a question on the audit of Lake McCoy. We get for that.
No, we don't get, well, indirect. We pay it, and then during settlement, that exact amount is withheld from their settlement, and it goes back into the county.
So, yeah, it doesn't come out. All right. You guys have anything?
No. I moved to approve.
Second. Payroll. April 25th, $380,584.72.
I would move to approve. Thank you.
Second. Thanks. Tom Howe.
Good evening, gentlemen. We had highway system last call. Entry-level driving training, and we incorporated the highway department in full swing. Got 3 guys that's already kind of done their theory. Next thing they need to do is the range, which is basically a planted cones in the parking lot, do backing, parallel parking, do all their range driving. And then after that, then they do behind the wheel, and then they be offered to go take the test out of that. So I'm glad to see that's going forward. We had LTAC come down and do work zone traffic training. LTAC was Local Technical Assistance Program. I thought they did a good job. We also had IPEP come in, do trenching safety. So we got some big pipes we put in. Requirement on the state for that. We've still been out continuing to grade the roads. We've actually been doing some surveying, sign maintenance, mowing, patching, and some ditching. And other than that, that's all I've got. Is there anything you gentlemen have for me?
I know the last time you said that you and Tim were going to be talking a little bit more about these issues from CCMG. Did you guys come up with any other possible solutions on what we're going to be doing on the existing roadways?
I'm still looking into that, Jeremy.
Can I add something on that? I was here at last month's meeting and they mentioned some names, and I think I've actually spoken with you, Jeremy. Yes, thank you. I'd like to get 880 on the list because the drainage ditches and the way they flow back there, unbelievable. It looks like a monsoon when the water goes into the creek and it can't get into the lake and it's coming off the fields and it cuts through your yard and it flows up. closes a creek down and goes over a street and takes out shoreline.
I think from some of our discussions, a lot of that was stuff that was done on private property. Is that right?
Well, it's just since they've elevated the blacktop up so high,
Yep.
the rough, it's all different. The grading that's back there now, it's never been like that.
Todd, is that anything that you guys can take a look at up by Lake Santee?
I think so. I think we actually did some work on those, I don't know what it's called. I think it's a big catch basin on the other side, trying to absorb some of that water coming off that field.
Yeah, we need riprap put up there, and that gate that you took down when you did that never did get put back up. There's like a wire, there's like 2 brown poles that sit about this high. And when they brought in the contractors to put in the big culvert, nothing was ever replaced or done, and nobody from our office has ever called. And like I called before on it, and nothing's ever been done. So
Was that culvert done on a county road?
the county road that was
Because
done.
I know some of our discussions revolved around things that were done inside
Yeah,
Santee area versus county roads.
Yeah, but then before even like when you took the position, I spoke to other people, and there's never been anybody to ever make record of a complaint or a concern or a need. And then there was Mark, I have one guy in my phone, but he came out probably like before COVID and all that. So it's just been ongoing different things, and change.
And if you don't mind, so that they can properly reflect your name and the issues that you're having, can you just state your name?
Thank you. Vicki Wilson, Ron Wilson, 510 Northwest Top Field Trail. Yeah, 417. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to me. Sounds like there are some drainage issues that might be stemming from some county work that's been done up there. I know some of the water issues were also just solely inside Santee,
Yeah.
which we can't do anything with some of that, but I know with some of the issues, we might be able to look at some of them. I don't know what kind of solution out there, but.
Okay. That's why we're here, we're taxpayers. Thank you.
Do you want, Todd, you said you have to leave after you get done with this board. Do you have a piece of paper there? For here, you can have one right here. You can just write your number on it. Perfect. And you can just give it to Todd,
Okay.
and that way he can talk to you specifically about what it is that you have there, so that maybe we can take a better look at that.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
I don't know.
The Fletcher Power folks are stuck in Atlanta, so they're going to back up to the next meeting. Kenny's not here.
We did email it before. If you want me to read that,
If you would.
So Kenny Buning's report for tonight's meeting. Looks like he did 46 inspections, 20 new permit and union reviews. Krista did 4 inspections and 4 permit renewals. Looks like there were 3 red tags. First was for kitchen receptacles that did not have the GFIs. Builder was informed and corrected the code violation. The second red tag was on a final inspection for 2 GFIs not working correctly. The electrician was informed and replaced with working receptacles to pass final inspection. The third red tag was a stairway height clearance code violation. The builder was informed and removed materials to get 6-foot 8-inch clearance. After re-inspecting, a certificate of occupancy was issued. He states also that he is working on drafting orders for property properties, and also Lake McCoy properties under the nuisance ordinance and unsafe building ordinance. So those were, particularly the Bernie one is something that we've been dealing with here for a while. That's the report from Kenny.
Yes, we got some more. I got another round of complaints from Bernie on a specific property. They had at least one property out there that's got grass growing up on the property above the hoods of the vehicles. It doesn't appear that we have an ordinance that addresses that in unincorporated towns. So that's something we want to kind of push forward through and try to start doing.
I'm hesitant on grass. I completely understand the issue and concerns there from the homeowners. My view on it is the unintended consequences of regulating something like that, where it's going to apply to people or situations all across the county in which it shouldn't.
I think we could draft an ordinance that talks about houses per square mile or houses per school, proximities to include those towns. And when grass gets up waist height inside of the town, it brings the values down. You've got nuisance pests, rodents, all kinds of things that comes out of that. Water drainage issues because now the grass and the vegetation is so high it's not flowing.
I'm just thinking, what's going to be different between this and something else? Like, if it's not affecting anybody else, where's the complaint, or where are we going to stop this if it's dead trees on somebody's property that another property owner doesn't like looking at? Or we regulate them saying somebody has to cut down dead trees on somebody else's property for whatever reason, whenever we're talking about, grinding stumps out because another person doesn't like that. I don't know, I have an issue with grass.
Most cities have ordinances that address this, though. Bernie is not an incorporated city. It falls under our preview, but it is a city. Go ahead, Krista.
Hey, we could, no, this is just a suggestion, do something like if it's an R zone, is it a residential zone? Because the county itself is mostly A1, or business. So it's only those small unincorporated towns and the incorporated towns. The incorporated towns deal with their own. But if, we could do the zoning, R2 or an R4, it has to be a suggestion.
That keeps from hitting the other areas. It goes into the blighted property conversation too.
It does. And I see the concerns with it.
When 10 cars sitting on somebody's property, sitting there with trees growing through them, at what point does the property owner have a complaint that their value of their home is going down?
So how are we determining that because there is grass that is this tall instead of this tall, that it's somehow affecting neighboring properties? Because when we're talking nuisance, that's what we're talking about, is a negative effect on neighboring properties.
It's very common in residential areas, at least the city of Greensburg has one, the Lakeville has one. New Point is wanting to draft one.
I don't know. I as somebody that's grown up in the country, lived in the city, moved back out to the country, I just have an issue.
Is Bernie the country?
Grass. I think it's the country, yeah.
But it's residential, it's not you on 10 acres with no neighbor. Those houses are 20 feet apart.
Sure.
Not exactly country.
I just feel like we'd be over-regulating on something like that.
So
I'm willing to look at your proposal or hear more about how it is that we're going to specifically target these kind of issues.
But what about the banning cars in these small towns? And we're already working towards those. That's what Kenny's working on now.
I think you're easily dealing with a safety issue there as far as banning cars. Same with blighted homes. I think that there's a clear safety issue. As far as grass growing, I don't see the same circumstance.
Commissioner Ford?
I would think we need to work on the cars and the blighted homes first. We can get that moving, maybe the rest will fall suit as far as taking care of the place. Keep the grass cut and trash picked up.
So are you talking about one property down there with the cars, or are you talking about the cars on all of the properties?
All of the properties. I think we have over 20 properties in Bernie that's been identified as abandoned vehicles or blighted.
And there's a lot.
And this specific complaint is only on one property within.
Yeah, I know what that is.
But there are probably 8 or 10 properties in Bernie
Right.
that the grass has grown up waist high into it. But there's no ordinance that mandates that has to be trimmed. So
Do landowners or homeowners live on those properties, or is it something where you have somebody that is,
the specific complaint I got, there is a landowner on that property.
I didn't know if it was, if you looked into some of those just being vacant lots.
Some of them are vacant lots. Some of them have partial trailers still on it, but they're vacant. But this specific one, the homeowner still lives there. Occupied dwellings on both sides.
I guess if we could specifically target or tailor, I'd be more willing to listen to it. I mean, I get the concern. But I also don't want something that is going to be a broad brush stroke that is going to affect people that don't want to mow a hill on a steep incline because of safety issue or whatever.
Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. Hey, as I outlined in an email to you, when we took office 16 months ago, we inherited Trinity Food Services with our food provider for our inmates. We've been doing some exploring, looking at our contracts, and we came across Kelwell. So Kelwell, our current costs are about $1.43 per meal per inmate. Kelwell believes they can get it down around 90 cents per meal. And I provided you some brief cost analysis there. I believe if we move with Kelwell, we're going to be saving about $40,000 a year. And that's a conservative, that's not on our part. I want to be conservative as possible on that. We believe it may be more. So we're looking at the cost difference. We've also had some quality issues with Trinity here lately. We've had to send some food items back because of the quality zone, to be quite frank. So again, what I'm asking to do is Trinity contract expires June 13th next month. We're asking to move on from Trinity and take Kelwell as our food service provider. Again, as always, our inmate workers are preparing our meals, and that will continue. So we're simply looking at a cost savings here.
What's the length of the term, the commitment to make?
There is no length there. We can do a 30-day notice at any time, should we choose to get out. And again, I did have Shane Smith look at both contracts and nothing significant.
I know last year you would come and talk to us about buying food from a local grocery, or I think bread. Is that something, looking at the cost analysis that you have, that you'll no longer have to do?
With Trinity, with Kelwell, we will not have to do that. We are still currently with Trinity buying our bread products from Walden's, yes. At almost $900 a month.
I don't have any questions on.
Are you getting reimbursed for the spoiled food or whatever?
We are, yes.
I don't have any questions. I mean, I think it's a great savings move to switch.
And again, I don't know if I highlighted it or not, but James County has been with Kelwell now for about 4 or 5 months. We checked with them, and they are seeing those cost savings, and quality of food is a little bit better than what they previously. So we've done our research on them, we believe it's a good fit.
Make a motion to approve.
Accepting the Kelwell.
Yes.
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Amanda Bates. No, no.
Amanda's not here, it's just me,
Okay.
Alicia Nobby, from the health department. We have a new food ordinance, and to be completely honest, I wasn't sure exactly what I needed to address tonight. I didn't know I'd be doing this solo. But we have made some changes, and by we, I mean Sean. The only modification to the food ordinance is that we are switching from doing inspections once every 6 months to risk-based inspections. So places like Dollar Tree, where a convenience store is not going to get inspected twice a year, it'll maybe be once a year. And then places like the hospital, steakhouse on 421, places that have more potentially hazardous foods or people that serve a high risk population, they'll be inspected maybe 3 or 4 times a year. But other than that, that's the only modification that's been changed.
Any questions?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Miss Erica. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
I am asking for, well, not me, Ritter Strategic Services is asking for the commissioners to sign a contract and scope of work for them to review our policy manual for industry standards, best practices. The police chief asked about it in a board meeting. I believe it was either the October meeting or the January meeting. But we had some outstanding policies that we wanted to get in the manual before we sent it for review. He and I worked together trying to figure out, Lexipol offers this for law enforcement. But since we're not affiliated with a law enforcement department, Lexipol will not do it for just the dispatch center. So I reached out to directors statewide and asked them who they're utilizing for SOPs. It's pretty consistent that they came back with Ritter's services. So this is, I think I have already sent you guys the contract. They quoted a 50-hour project. I did have a call with Barry and Ed last Tuesday morning when I was in Nashville, and they said because the way that the policies are currently written and organized, that's what they spend a lot of their time initially doing. So they don't foresee it being that 50-hour project. If they only commit 20 hours to reviewing our policies, then we are only responsible for what they actually put work hours into. But it will not go over and beyond the 50 hours. So they quoted what they think it will high end be, but it won't go over that. But during my call with them last week, they said that the way that things are organized and written now, they don't foresee it being that 50-hour project. So I wrote the policy manual from scratch, basically, when we consolidated in 2016. So this is going to put outside eyes on it just to make sure that our policies align with industry standards. But if anything needs changed that would in any way affect an outside department, we work with them to let them know that, like one of the things we've already talked about is the job descriptions that the salary study wrote, and that we've already paid for those. So like those don't even need to be reviewed because that's how they came back from the salary study. So if any policies they review or any changes that may need made will affect any outside departments, that'll come back through my advisory board, which is set up for policy and procedure prior to obviously any of those changes being made. But right now, the last thing that I have to do with them after our call last week, I'm going to send them all the call natures that we currently have in our CAD system, just to see if there's anything that they have policy for currently that we are utilizing. Not necessarily lack of policy, but just the knowledge that this is how we handle that call, but it's not actually formally laid out in a policy. I'm going to send him all of our call natures, but I asked them last week until I was able to get in front of you guys and see where your headspace was with it, to not invest anything in it yet, because I don't want them to work on something if then it doesn't get signed or they volunteer their time, so.
Have you talked with your advisory board about this process?
The police chief, actually, all of the members of my advisory board also sit my big board. So when the chief brought it up in the big board meeting, all of the advisory board was there as well. And I haven't individually contacted each of them to reiterate that I was pursuing it. But I believe I put everybody on an email after the police chief and I had talked about, he reached out to his law enforcement contacts to see if anybody provided the services other than Lexapol. And then when I came back and found out that this is kind of what they're doing, statewide, people are affiliated with this service. I believe maybe that went back out to the board to follow up that conversation.
So we started talking about it in October, November last year. It's basically an outside third-party review of legal best practices and standards. So we discussed it last fall and told her to push forward with trying to find somebody to do that, to make sure that liability-wise, the county and the department are covered legally through lawsuit by having best practices within those policies.
The policies are actually on the agenda to be reviewed by the advisory board in January, but law enforcement all had to leave that meeting for a law enforcement call. So we didn't actually get around to reviewing them until the March meeting. So that's where the delay is between the initial conversation and actually getting it in front of you guys.
See, it's pretty standard, especially when we write our own policy, to eventually have somebody look over it. Chief McNeely asked for us to look into it. We all kind of agreed, probably need to do something. I want to say self-written, but I mean, it's collaboration of multiple policies to make best practices and make sure.
And that's why I was asking about the advisory, because that group is made up of other people, other entities, other agencies, and so I want to make sure that we actually had a group belief that this is something that we need to be looking at from the folks that are directly affected by your department.
And the cost is within your budget.
Yeah, I'll pay for it out of my budget. I'll pay for it out of my contract services. They usually, because stuff waivers so much every year, I should have it, but even if I don't, I have a cash balance. It will be of no additional money coming back and asking for me. The only thing that I may need to do at the end of the year is just ask that money be moved from my cash balance into the appropriation to bring everything back to the black, but I don't foresee that being an issue. I try to stay out of my cash balance because nothing in dispatch is cheap.
Make a motion to move the contract.
A second.
I have the contract with you. All I need is unless you want the whole thing.
Next up is Mindy, and she phoned Patty and she's under the weather. She was asking for commissioner's blessing, I think, on applying for it's called Best Friends Grant. Chris Ramey had called me about it, and Mindy called me over the weekend. Just wanted to make sure that we were aware that they were going to try to raise some funds to help out with animal shelters. Guys, some thoughts on that?
I have no issues with them trying to raise money to help the animal shelter.
So we'll pass that on to Mindy. She's got the blessing. Doug.
Well, the coroner put me in charge of something, so.
That's what happens when you marry.
I only have 3 copies of that. Janet and I talked a while ago, and I think I called you, Mark. I finally found a company that will call me back and get us something that we need for a cooler. The cooler that we have in the last few years, we spent about $3,500 on. It was built in the early 1980s. It's time for it to go away. It is now, the condenser has numerous holes in it. The compressor is on its last leg, and the door won't shut correctly anymore. So, since it was put in or purchased by Mike Gaskell when he was coroner, which that was 20, well, it would have been 30 years ago. The problem that I had is Janet and I talked a little bit, and we wanted your guys to take it out of the
Vehicles.
Yes, right. I thought that was what it was. I didn't know what the correct name of the fund was. It's $8,000. There's about $800 worth of shipping that's going to come off of that. It is taken apart because of the size of it. We can't get it through the door. So I'll put it together once it gets in. Which, after talking to the guy, he said, if you have a little bit of mechanical knowledge, you shouldn't have any problems. He said it's pretty simple. It's basically panels. You put the panels together. It's 110 volt. It does not have, like our old cooler, have a condenser that you have to run the water out. This all takes care of it all by itself. Digital controls, and you can actually hook it up, which is way above my technology level. You can hook it up so your phone can tell you what the temperature of the cooler is. I don't think that we need that, but anyway, there's lots of bells and whistles that can go along with it. I don't feel we need that. We need a cooler. It's an unfortunate side of the job. The one I have now is not working, and fortunately, we have some very excellent funeral directors around that I have been bothering if I need to hold someone over, but that isn't always very nice because they don't want me coming in there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and believe it or not, people, sometimes my calls aren't between 7 and 4. So, gotta have something. Any questions?
Didn't the told that the council put that in your budget a couple of years ago?
Kind of indirectly.
It was set in the budget, but you didn't use it, so when you didn't request it again,
Right.
it went away.
Yes, and
So it just went back in the cash?
Yes.
guys, I don't like spending money. That's,
Oh, I do.
it was working, and until I got to a point where the repair guys are finally like, listen, I'm gonna be here for 2 days getting this fixed, and that's where we're at now. So that's why I decided.
And council can go and do an additional and open up a line that says cooler or corner. That's gonna take a June meeting because of the timing of the advertising. And I think it's.
I need to get something.
So we just take it out of Cume cash?
You have vehicle. And with your permission.
That's why I'm here. I mean, and, if I need to go through all those steps, that's fine, but I like to get something short, because I have worked with our funeral directors very well, and, they have, in their need, if they need something, they use our cooler, which I have no problem with. 20 years ago, we had a K-9 police officer that was shot in the line of duty. I was the only person in the southern part of the state that had a cooler. K-9 was in my cooler, that it's, and they're coming a lot more now. Now each one of the local funeral homes has a cooler, but 10 years ago they didn't, just because of, but with the high number of cremations that are happening. So everybody knows the law is you cannot cremate somebody without a 48-hour waiting period. Well, my business to save some money, then you don't have to embalm that person if you cremate them. So you have to have refrigeration for that person, especially in the summertime, so degradation is going to start happening. So that's why a lot of the funeral directors purchase coolers. So I'm just kind of borrowing theirs, since I'm a nice guy, it's going to shake back and forth. That's working out a little, but it's not going to work out for long. So
I don't see issues taking that from that.
So if we're able to get you into a different space at some point in the future, you'd be able to disassemble and take this with you again?
I'd sure rather not.
Okay. Yeah.
It's, it's an erector set. Each time you take it apart, then you lose degradation on it, and you're not getting the seal that you did. The first time is much better. That cooler right there has already moved 3 times, and it leaks like this.
Where we cut a big hole in the front door. And
You could, that's fine, but then you gotta find a fork truck, and I've already talked to, can't even think. Go across the railroad track right behind Maddox's. It's not A&A.
A&A.
Yeah.
It's A&A.
Asked them to set it off, that's all I said, just, all I need you to do is drive over there, set it off back to the truck, and you can leave. Oh, yeah, that's no problem. Instead of having to go find somebody with a fork truck and rent it all over here, so.
No, it's something that you got to have it.
Any other questions?
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of the presented three-body upright mortuary cooler for the price of $8,199 and the addition of shipping costs to the effect of whatever that amount might be.
And once again, I don't know
Yeah.
for sure, because
Yeah.
they normally ship them full.
Yeah.
So broken down, it's gonna be cheap.
My motion would be to just cover the cost of shipping and the price of the.
Where they coming from?
Good question. There's a place in Lexington, there's a place in Tennessee, and he said, I'm not sure which one's gonna come out of it, but I said, well, let's do the one in Lexington, that's a lot closer. So,
A second.
I'll agree.
thanks, guys.
You're welcome. YMCA, is this, what's in this folder? Subsidy agreement. We've talked about it, we've all seen it in an email, Chad approved it.
That's the one we approved, we said we wanted to go to the Y for their approval for sign.
Yes. Yeah. Good reason you put that there, huh? Right in the middle.
I think Chad told me there were no changes by the Y.
And just for folks that may not have been here for prior meetings, the Y had applied for a grant to replace their role. The county has to sponsor the grant. It's like a pass through for the money on the project. So the money goes from OKRA, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, comes to us and then passes through to the Y. And so we are basically agreeing to the terms, even though we don't have any actual money in the project. But this agreement details what county's responsibilities are and what the YMCA's responsibilities are.
So you're both good with this, only got to place new signs.
I'd move to the subsidy.
Process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Congratulations on your time.
You want that? Yeah, Chad's got some. John, what?
You want me to stand up, or I got two other guys with me? Right here, okay?
You're fine.
Okay. I'm John Lecker. I'm the utility administrator for the Lake Santee Regional Wastewater District. I'm Paul Gosnell, our president, Greg Coffin, our vice president. We recently inquired about some operational reviews of both our water and sewer plants through some engineers. And we got quotes back at about $30,000. Greg Coffin has experience to do this work, so the board is looking to have him consult for about half of that price. State Board of Accounts requires the commissioners to approve that, since the commissioners place all of our trustees. So I'm asking approval for Greg Coffin to be engaged as a consultant, and looking for the signature on the State Board of Accounts Uniform Conflict of Interest Disclosure Statement.
Motion to allow.
I think that motion.
1 second.
Will concur.
Thank you. You have a copy of the form, or do you?
No, I have it right here.
Okay.
I just want to make sure putting it in the right place.
Yeah, you three sign as commissioners and then we set. Thank you.
My name's Debbie Gordon. Okay. I'm in place of Michelle for Lifetime Resources for Tetraride. We have been receiving support from each county that we serve for many years, and we greatly appreciate that support. Typically, we go to the counties for any funding as opposed to the commissioners. With no notice, NDOT added a requirement for commissioners to sign the following 2 documents, which I think Michelle or Aaron may have provided to you guys. Authorizing, I got copies, so you authorizing resolution which spells out the duties of Historic Hoosier Hills. Historic Hoosier Hills is technically the applicant and the recipient of the Section 5311 grant. Lifetime manages all the day-to-day stuff, finances, reporting, hiring, and the oversight. With the oversight of Historic Hoosier Hills. The Section 5311, 5339 is designating Tetraride as public transportation provider. In the counties, as we, done for many years. We understand this is a new requirement that came from feedback from NDOT from our recent review that we have through NDOT. And so they are asking for adequate documentation of designated public transportation providers in each of the county. It doesn't hold the county to any specific that they, NDOT and Lifetime, would love to see us develop a greater relationship with the commissioner.
I guess, can you tell me a little bit more about what specifically you do?
What we do? So Lifetime Resources is one of the area agencies on aging, but they do not serve actually Decatur County, but Tetraride does for public transit. So public transit, how I kind of describe it is like if you go in Cincinnati and you see the metro running around, well, we actually provide rural county services to any individual in the community that needs a ride. It's for anybody. And we have a low price to ride from one place to the next. They pick people up at their home location, take them to whether it's medical, shopping, any type of recreational type of thing. They pretty much, it's helped over 17,000 people in this community for the services that we provide.
You're in 17,000 here in Decatur County? Or
Just in Decatur County, yeah.
17,000 people or 17,000 different?
We've done 17,000
Right.
trips in the last year. Sorry, I should have.
It's okay. I say that's a lot of people.
I've seen it. I don't hear.
Yeah.
He's in Westport every morning about 4 to 6.
I'm just looking at sub-reciprocal lots. You guys have to do quarterly reports, correct? We don't, it's not a commissioner or county requirement.
Quarterly reports. For some reason,
section 11.
Be responsible. Take that soil.
Yeah.
Isn't NDOT, I went to Brush counties and they discussed this morning at their meeting, NDOT forcing you guys to, instead of just being a county, the counties have to form a region.
So, with our recent, review, NDOT is requiring us to build a relationship with the commissioners. The counties and the cities are the ones who does the grants. Just building that relationship between our actual, agency and the commissioners.
So is there anything specific tonight you need from us?
Yeah, other than signatures that we have, that we're trying to work on that, and come and attend and, just kind of listen in and build that relationship.
I think I want to read through whatever it is that we need to sign before we sign it.
Because they're funded through
Yeah.
council and, the River being.
So I've got a copy, I think, of what they have. It's the 5311, 5339 Funded Rural Public Transportation Memorandum of Agreement. It's a 5-page document between Hoosier Historic Hills, which is the applicant, commissioners, and Lifetime Resources, which is the designated subrecipient. When I look at it, it looks like it's a grant opportunity for them that we are supporting. But I haven't been able to look through the whole thing in depth, or I don't think Chad's looked at it yet.
So we'll study that, if it's okay, and bring it back up our next meeting.
Put it on the next agenda.
Well, the one requirement though, they have to have signatures before the 17th of May. They were trying to, I know it's a short period of time, but they just literally told us last month that and we've been trying to get a hold of all, we operate in 6 counties, so trying to get into commissioners meetings in 6 different counties is really difficult, and this was the next one that they have available. So.
Well, Chad's out of town.
Yeah, and this has got requirements, and I'm not sure who it is by reading through it. Jeremy may be able to figure it out with his legal mind, but parties acknowledged federal 5311 and state PMT funding allocated by NDOT to all parties will be included with an operating budget submitted by 2025 section 5311, 5339 grant application. Parties acknowledge Historic Hoosier will act as the grant applicant, recipient, pass-through entity because of 5311 state PMTF allocations. Lifetime Resources will act as designated subrecipient and transit provider for rural public transportation in the designated county. I think this is probably similar to what we've done with the
For the
Y.
Y as a pass-through, I'm sure. But I'm not in a position where I can sign something tonight without knowing more about what we're signing up to do as far as our requirements.
I can leave this documents with you
Yeah.
if you wanna go along. I know that I have these back to the 17th.
The next meeting for which we would be able to publicly address this and agree to it as a body is going to be until the 20th.
It shows the term of the agreement to be in effect January 1 of 2025. With what I'm looking, I don't know for sure that's the document you have. I think it is, but the agreement doesn't go into effect for January 1st.
You're the bearer of that.
There's record keeping requirements. I have been put down as designated point of contact.
You may call them to see if there's some kind of an extension or something that you can file.
Well, I think it's for our 5311 grant application that they've got to have.
And that's
before
due
their
there.
17th.
I mean, we can always,
We can advertise and call a meeting, just a special session, just to sign that once Chad reviews it. Try to get it back to her and give us early part of next week.
we can try to.
I can call Erin Thomas. She's actually in Texas right now, but she told me if you guys had questions, to call her.
I just want to look at the contract.
What's that?
I just want to look at the contract to see what our responsibilities and duties are
Yeah.
in that contract. And then we would have as a group, we can't make decisions outside of a public meeting like this, so that's the issue. So I mean, we need to let our attorney look at it. And so what Mark was saying is we could have our attorney look at a copy of it, and then we can call a special session next week maybe, to address that one issue. So it would be before your deadline, the 17th.
That's the best we can do for you.
If you have a copy of it.
Yeah, I have. She.
All right, thank you. And so is Aaron the
Aaron
point of
Thomas.
contact
Yeah,
for any other questions or anything?
Yeah.
So, and if we get that, if we need anything for the special session, contact Aaron.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the questions.
I'll try my best.
Did great. All right, we'll get this to our attorney.
Yeah, let's go ahead. It's more than helpful. Next up, I have Dora, is the designated outdoor refreshment area at Rebecca Park. I've personally had 3 calls about why are we allowing alcohol in our park, and I just wanted to bring that back up with you guys. Any comments? That was kind of done without our knowing what was going to happen. Tom and I have had a little bit of talk about it. We got a really nice inclusion park, and I don't think we ought to have alcohol next to our inclusion park.
My thoughts on the door specifically is that it doesn't really change what we've done in the past and over the last few years. We've allowed alcohol. There's nothing that you can't have alcohol in any of the parks in Decatur County. We're pavilions at the county park, and there's reunions and graduation parties. Are they allowed to have alcohol? Is that in the contracts? Is it banned? Is it there or not there? So I guess it's more or less an out-of-door conversation, but whether as commissioners we want to create an ordinance banning the use of alcoholic beverages at all of our county parks.
I think where we were at last time on this discussion was having an ordinance in place that would have prohibited the use of alcohol except for specific events. I don't mind that idea. I know that under the construct right now of how Dora is, that seems difficult because of who the accepted parties are, the people who can actually asked to be removed from the DORA does not specifically include us. And I've actually called one of our state reps to talk about getting this reworded so that other county entities or governmental entities could actually choose to withdraw from it. Because right now, from what Chad had said at the last meeting, we don't have the ability to withdraw park out of the DORA.
Right, but we still have the ability to create ordinance that bans alcohol.
Yes.
Unless specifically approved by the commissioners on a case-by-case basis,
Yes.
maybe?
And I think that the like concert series and things like that, I think it's a positive for the community. Because it's a place for people to go to do things. I don't know if a sweeping, all excluding ban is appropriate, but I think having a little bit of room there for specific use petitions, similar to what we do on the lawn, I think that would be appropriate.
Do we still allow the use of DORA then? Because what the DORA does is in those specific use and exceptions, allows them to go outside of the said beer garden or lined off area. And that was my understanding of the intent of DORA, was it loosened the requirements of being confined within a 20 by 20 confine of the area.
But they're purchasing it at a place of business that is a DORA business, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, so you're not, because my understanding last month that the park board director said that Decatur County does not allow alcohol at parks. And then,
There may be a rule,
okay,
but there's no enforcement action.
okay.
I did say that. I said that we don't permit alcohol in the parks, but then
Yeah,
the
I thought
question
you
came
did.
up whether or not it was an ordinance or whether it was a rule. And it's just a rule we followed for as long as I can remember. But
We don't have anything.
we discussed whether it was an ordinance or not. I don't know about that.
There isn't a way for us to enforce it.
Right.
Is the issue. And so, I mean, you can tell somebody no all day long, but there's nothing to back it up.
Right. We don't promote it in the parks, but is it in the parks at given
Absolutely.
times? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So then the question is, do we want to keep the DORA and make the ordinance that bans the use of alcohol by anyone unless approved by the commissioner for specific events?
So I've had calls, like Marcus had calls about people saying we don't want alcohol in the parks. I've had those, and I've also had calls or messages from folks who have said like, look, we really like going to the events at the park over the summer for the concert series because it was something else, something different to do here in our community. So you don't have to go somewhere else just to sit out and listen to live music and enjoy yourselves. You can take your whole family, kids can play at the park if you want, while you sit there and listen to music. I think that's a valuable thing to the community. That's why I think that a sweeping, all excluding ban, I don't think that's the best course of action.
I agree. I've got those same messages. And I like going out there and listening to the concert series and being able to drink a beer from the vendor.
Yeah.
But they also like to be able to sit next to their wife or their kids or whatever at the in the area where everybody else is, and not over in the the orange fenced off area where they can either be alone, whoever, to drink their beer, or where they want to be able to sit in their lawn chairs and be able to enjoy that.
Sure.
And that was my understanding. The intent of the DORA was that they could do that.
I think the other benefit too about having the use petition, hoping that people listen to these and come to these, there would be some kind of notice that something is going on at the park in which alcohol would be included. Whereas right now, DORA just opens the park up to alcohol all the time. If we have the special use petitions, there is going to be some kind of notice in which people will be able to know that something's going on. If alcohol.
I don't know how DORA opens up the park to alcohol all the time any more than what it already is. We don't have anything that closes the park to alcohol.
No, but it's an explicit thing that we're allowing it.
Because they're purchasing it.
Yes.
You have to purchase it at the tap.
I'm still questioning how county property got put into the DORA to start with without any permission being asked from anyone. That's my question.
The lines were drawn by the city of Greensburg
And who got the permission for the lines to be drawn on county property?
I don't believe any one of us three
That's the question.
had ever discussed county property being included.
I talked to the mayor in one of our quarterly meetings and we discussed it. But as far as a commissioners meeting where we voted to approve it, there wasn't.
I guess my daughter was hit by a drunk driver. That's where I'm coming from. Laid in the hospital for 2 weeks, lifeline to Indy. I'm just a anti-drinker, and I don't think drinking around kids is the proper thing to do. We spent a lot of money building that inclusion park, and right next door, we got these little kids in the park, and we got drinkers going on over here, and I just don't think it's right. That's my 2 cents.
But that would be an all-out ban in all the parks.
I believe it would be, if I were writing the rules.
But you're part of the group at this point, so.
Guess I'm like Mark, I don't know how we allowed it to happen in the first place without us being approached, be included in this door district. I guess that's what upsets me the most. And that's why I brought that.
So I've had both sides of this. Constant series is something that seems to be well attended. People enjoy that.
And I would agree with that.
It happens to be right next to the inclusion park and the other area things that are going up there, and they enjoy to do that with a beer in their hand. How do you please the almighty political question? How do you please everybody?
Well, you don't. Where do we go?
I think we moved forward, I thought we had moved forward last month with creating an ordinance banning the consumption of alcohol or use of alcohol in public parks without special exception for commissioners.
I think requiring a special use petition, I think proceeding that way serves the community best.
Agreed.
On both sides. Because we are banning it except in specific instances.
And I don't think the door affects that.
So I think that's probably the best way to go.
I agree.
I think that's the best way to go.
When we do public notice, hey, there's going to be constant series. And even with those special exceptions, we can limit that to a specific area out there, regardless of what Dora says. Anything past this line or this area, east of whatever, no alcohol is permitted.
You have to do that on all parks in Decatur County or just that one?
And what'll be all parks?
Right now, we don't have anything that is explicit in banning alcohol anywhere else. And so I think that needs to be addressed as well.
But I think that if the issue is drinking at the playground with the kids, it applies to all of our parks, correct? It's not just that one.
Yeah. Yes, it would be every one of them. So that way there's something that explicitly says what you can and can't do at the parks.
So when this park was built, did we know it was going to be for concert series?
When the amphitheater was built, yes.
And then inclusion park was put right next in later? Before we went first. Who was the planning? Who planned this?
It's
So,
the
All of a sudden
bell.
we have a problem now.
well, the
Who's
problem,
saying that?
the problem came not from the concert series, the problem came from selling alcohol and then wanting the Dora to be on the.
But there's no ordinance now about not having alcohol.
Correct, yeah. So that's what we're addressing.
I think,
Because if you just had concerts out there right by the inclusion park, that's fine. That's not a big deal. It's the possibility of having alcohol out there that's creating the issue.
But you could have alcohol before or.
yes,
You weren't.
But there was a designated area that we were allowed to be in,
Yeah.
and that it was road, it wasn't just a 20 by 20 section of the park, which had ropes all the way around it, and you had to have your bracelet and stay within the confines of that roped off area, which can't be separated from the actual playground.
yeah, the beer garden was placed far away from that stuff, because the amphitheater isn't necessarily in close proximity to the inclusion park. Dora now includes all of Rebecca Park. You don't have to be inside that beer garden that was restricted by excise, state excise, regulates all that stuff.
Where
So
the
like,
playground is inside the door, correct? The playground is
Correct.
in the door.
Correct.
Wow.
So we have to restrict that to where now that playground isn't going to be included for alcohol to make a special exception.
Redraw the Dora maps to exclude the children's area.
The city's the one that drew them, so we don't have that ability from what.
Told them we might have a problem with that, but you gotta redraw it, mate.
He was here at the last.
Wasn't treated more.
So,
Was it however many feet they played there? I'll get a little mayor, talk to him about it.
his response to me was that, his response was what, to me, is what he said at the meeting last time, is that any of the property owners that are affected have the ability to withdraw from it, which was it directly conflicted with what our attorney advised us of what the actual statute reads.
Property owners can, and the agencies can't.
That's the issue.
So the courthouse included in this Dora area? So we can drink inside the courthouse?
Where's your coffee mug? Now I'm on. All the time. What's your bed like? I think that, yes, I'd have to go around and look and see if we have any signs on the courthouse that says you can't bring booze in here.
But you have to share.
Please, no. Don't share. Okay, I think we just move forward with that. I'll talk to you about maybe trying to get the rewrite to get the playground or anything within 200 feet of a playground is excluded from it. We can do there.
Next up, solar ordinance.
Before you carry on.
Oh, yeah.
My understanding, and I've not seen a very clear picture of the map, but Pirate Park is included in the door, which is the facility to the west of Arbor Grove Village. Correct or incorrect?
You're correct.
Okay, I mean, and to me, the boundary could just be cut off at the street. Well, it's actually a private drive that goes into Rebecca Park, or not Rebecca Park, sorry, it's Arbor Grove underneath the arch off of Main Street, because that's a private drive. Going from Main Street or Highway 46 back to Arbor Grove, I've been told that is private drive.
It is.
So why that boundary cannot be cut off right there? And we go back to what we were originally doing with beer garden and the area inside for these special events. see where that's a big issue. And then that would save having to try to police what's going on in the park itself.
Well, we still have the issue that we're allowing alcohol to be in the park at any time. There's no law or rule that you can't drink in the parks. There's a please don't sign and that's it.
But you're working on getting that changed, what I understand. Correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Solar ordinance amendment.
So after our biosolid PFAS conversation, I had a gentleman reach out and point out to me that solar panels in PFAS and Green X and PFOS and cadmium and lead. So I started researching that. I got a hold of Francisco, and while that's true, there are non-toxic options available for almost all of the materials that would be used in these solar fields. So I would like to suggest, or see if the commissioner would agree to suggest the BZA an area plan to change our solar ordinance to mandate the use of non-toxic materials when available in any construction of solar fields. And then our ordinance also doesn't mandate the use of vegetative screens, just an 8-foot fence and signs. And talking to the public for months. That's one of the big things. They don't want to see it. So they can comply with it now, which both companies have told me that's what they will do. But in 18 months or 2 years, they can go cut them down and be gone. There's nothing they can do. So I am proposing adding those two areas or pushing out. I think they have to come out of the APC to change to add them to our solar ordinance. And then
I think you need to get the changes in writing and they'd be advertised so that the public can.
Tony, I did a little bit of research on this, if I could.
absolutely, you're the person who reached out to me and told me about it, so.
First off, what research I thought was pointing to the subject that you bring into the commissioners, that's what research I found. And what I could find on the topic, what's happening in the world on the topic. First part of it there is exactly what is the PFA. It's a long-lasting chemical due to the nature of the carbine-fluorine bond of the chemicals that do not allow for normal biodegradation breakdown as other compounds and chemicals do once they get into the earth or into the air. Solar panels use PFAs to coat the front and back of the solar panels to improve the flexibility and durability. That's how it comes to be in that. Just the subject of PFAs. I'm not approaching anything else. I'm sticking to the PFA subject. RWE stated in their March 2024 Board of Zoning meeting that their supplier of solar panels had changed from China to Vietnam. The other thing to take note of is the subject of circumventing. The act of shipping products to another country to avoid paying anti-dumping or countervailing duties. The United States Commerce Department has found several Chinese manufacturers shipping their solar products to Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam for minor processing in an attempt to avoid paying anti-dumping and countervailing duties. Despite control measures put in place by the United States government, control of sourcing and manufacturing of solar panels and what they are coated with and the list of toxins used and embedded in solar panels is very challenging to prove or disprove due to the current players in the industry. I'll let you read the other parts of it, which basically expands on what my comments just were. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
I know one of the things, Larry, that I talked about with Francisco here recently, and we haven't discussed it. We talked about what's in the panels. One of the things that I noticed we hadn't talked about, solar panels will have a sheet of glass over the cells as well. What is the coating on the glass? Because that's not something that we had talked about. I'm waiting on an answer for that, to what exactly is on the tempered glass.
And
protecting
so
themselves.
I think out of Vietnam, there's 12 major manufacturers in Vietnam. I'm bringing up Vietnam because that's who he said at the March meeting, he thought that's where they would be sourced from, which is a long-term, way out in advance. When do you order them? How many? How do you get them shipped over here? That is when the situation where PFA is the coating, protect the glass. Many were shared in what I handed to you. People are even people in the United States government are just not getting answers to, is this got a PFA coating on it or does it not? It's never declared. Where did you get them from? I mean, what was the manufacturer? Well, we just can't seem to get that answer for you. Well, before you get them installed, we're going to need a confined answer, in writing, so that if you put something here you said you wasn't, now we got something to stand on instead of we just took it on good word and faith. In order to protect the water contamination, soil contamination here, with what's on the agenda possibly for the next couple, 3 years.
I think prohibiting PFAs kind of situation is a great thing. I think it needs to be not only a prohibition, but also including some type of remediation clause that if something were to be found, what exactly the obligations of the company would be to remedy that situation.
And if they file bankruptcy, now what recourse do we have?
That's contained in solar.
That's part of the decommissioning clause. We would just have to include that if we're doing this type of prohibition on PFAs. The decommissioning bond would have to include remediation or something like this.
The difficult part of, I think, where the conversation is headed is that I had somebody call me after our biosolids conversation and asked if we were trying to ban PFAs. I said, no, we're just trying to get biosolids that aren't created in the county to keep from coming into the county. They said, well, that's good because quite a bit of the chemicals used by farmers contain PFAs, and the pesticides and herbicides. So trying to determine the source of it 10 years from now, whether that would be a solar panel that had water on it putting it in, or whether it was chemicals.
The dilution rate is, so yes, it is apparent probably here in this room, but so minute, not a factor. It's some of these industrial uses running up to such a level, it becomes a factor, and that's in the report there. And I'm just closing it in the report. We've all been exposed to PFAs, may not really have any, health consequences, but at some point, the rules change.
Right.
Yeah. If we bring in a few thousand acres where the coating on it, the first rain on that solar panel puts it down in the ground, now what are we dealing with? And we can't reverse out of it. We have to be proactive to stop that before it happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next course of action then, do we want to have Krista?
It will have to go to the APC. You will have to recommend that the APC look at and revise the ordinance, and then we would revise it, take it to a public meeting, vote on it, and then bring it back.
I make a motion that we do that on both points.
Specifically stating complaints forming.
When non-toxic materials are available, they must be utilized in the construction of solar fields. And a vegetative screening, 6 foot height after 3 years of the end of construction, be put in place on road frontages and within residential view.
And maintain.
And in some way that it's not addressed specifically, but the Board of Zoning Appeals can probably
They have the discretion.
typically put those requirements on those things, but
And in talking to Francisco, he says they're already in line with all the requests that are putting forward. I met with him last week and said, hey, this is what I'm doing, kind of heads up, not a
Yeah.
permission thing, and he's like, yeah, we're already doing that. So it's not something that, I mean, they're doing
Not
vegetative
responsible.
trees, they're putting trees up, they're doing those things already. But in 18 months, they can come in, that those trees die, they don't replant it, now all of a sudden it's not there, we don't have any reports for that. And then, any potential future projects will have that in the ordinance.
I second the motion.
I would concur.
Steve, 6 foot in height every 3 years, I'm sorry. If after.
Within 3 years.
Within 3 years.
6 foot in height by 3.
Yeah.
By year. Thank you.
Thank you.
How's everyone? I'm Steve Least. I'm with Assured Partners, Kevin Freckler. We're here to discuss our property and casualty renewal that renews on 5/22 this month. I believe everyone received an electronic copy of that. We did provide another hard copy of that to you tonight. One thing that is different that on page 24, which is the summation of premiums, we were able to get our underwriting group at Liberty to give us some further reductions in pricing. So there's a single sheet that's reflects those pricing changes. Specifically, the property premium, the law enforcement, and the umbrella were reduced. Couple high points of the renewal this year. We do have approximately $6 million more in total insured values that we're insuring this year that we did not have on the schedule last year. So our property values are increased. Some of the other things that we're seeing from a coverage perspective, and we've touched on this in the past, it's kind of the reason our previous carrier exited their public entity business, but we can continue to see a lot of rate and litigation in the law enforcement liability piece of the program. And that's not just specifically Decatur County, that's the state of Indiana, and that's just the nature of what we're dealing with from a suit perspective these days. Those underlying carriers or coverages do affect our excess liability policy, which goes over our underlying coverages. So it does write up the premium there. Good news, we have a reduction in our work comp experience mod this year of about 36 basis points. So we're going to go from about a 1.43 to a 1.07. They promulgate our mod based on our 3 previous years, not including our current year. We had a bad year 4 years ago that's rolling off and a better year that's coming on. So our work comp premium, even though our payrolls are elevated, our premium is going down from work comp insurance perspective with IPAP. We're not proposing any changes to our carrier lineup. We're finishing up our second year with Liberty on all the coverages with the exception of the work comp. That has been with IPAP for a while. Which is a pooling arrangement in the state of Indiana. They've been very competitive and public entity space, so it's been a good place for the county to be, but we are getting a reduction in our overall cost on the work comp. So do want to thank Janet, Christy, Patty. There's a lot of information that goes into this process. We start 90 days in advance of our renewal, so we're getting started in February on this. A lot of information gathering, a lot of underwriting information that's required, and they do a great job of working with us and getting that information from the department heads. So just want to make sure that they're recognized for that. It's very helpful. Typically, too, what we do is we will make our recommendations at this meeting and then give the commissioner the chance to review the program, see if there's any questions, and come back. I believe the next meeting is on the 20th. So we would look for formal approval, the meeting on the 20th. We did include some information on the state of the insurance market. So, and I'm sure everyone in this room probably experiences some of the struggles we're having with overall insurance costs from a property and an auto perspective. It's been challenging from an underwriting perspective for some of these carriers to make money in certain lines of coverage. So we're seeing that in the commercial space just on an elevated level. I'm sure everybody's seeing that on the personal.
So in the general liability line, there's a 30% increase. Is that something we've done or been a part of, or that's the industry's not in the back?
No, I don't think it's just anything really from an exposure perspective. Can maybe help me out a little bit on this. If we look on the overall total cost of the program, Mark, I mean, that they're increasing some lines at a certain rate, other lines at a lesser rate. I think when we look at our overall cost of insurance, including the work comp in there, which we're seeing some decrease, we're looking at about a 14% total increase. So if you want to think of it on those terms, but inside of that 14% increase, we're also adding $6 million worth of property to our program. So there is some exposure increase built inside the program. And when you factor that exposure increase in to our overall 14% increase, I never want to bring anybody an increase in their overall cost, but I don't feel bad about this one given what I'm seeing in the market.
I have the same question about the general liability, but also with the auto portion of that. Is that, again, market-based, or is that reflective of us, our vehicles, our drivers?
Some of it's claims. So without diving into the specifics, if we look at our last 2 years in our auto line, we're running at about a 60% loss ratio. So some of that rate probably is based on our own experience, but a lot of it too is just the market.
When we added $6 million, we were at 79 million before. To put things in perspective, the growth is percentage-wise not quite the same.
The highway department is all secure now, so the theft, where before it was an open door to anyone. So our exposure, in my eyes, should be less because we're more secure compound.
And I would agree with that, Mark. That's a good way to look at it. I think what we're seeing, at least from a property perspective, is more high dollar weather events in terms of wind and hail type losses. We're seeing those on a more frequent basis, it seems. And I don't know if that's just weather patterns, but when those losses occur, you can have the best construction, best safeguards, but then after a tornado comes through, you're gonna get hit. But carriers do like that new construction, and they do apply more credits when we do have those facilities.
Do you have a question? The highway department did a complete overhaul on their inventory and put everything in here. Does everything need to be added line by line by line?
Well, that's one of the things we're gonna check.
Yeah,
is
I think I'd asked.
We pushed all that stuff through. And I think I'll go back and look at that again and see if there's, put it into the building instead of a, marine policy.
Yeah, because they added, that's, big part of that 6 million, isn't it, where they added?
We added a bunch. Well, we did the highway department, so we didn't have so much as we blanketed. Anything under $5,000 is in one big number, so we don't have to specifically do it that way. So some of that equipment could be part of the contents, which would be a little less expensive also.
So what exactly is in the umbrella number?
So the umbrella goes, that includes, yeah, so a lot of the excess liability, I'll give you the actual. So our excess liability of 5 million goes over our general liability, employee benefits liability, sexual misconduct, law enforcement, public officials, and auto. And the majority of that premium is probably rated in our auto exposure. We've got 95 units the county owns.
Down one month.
From a litigation perspective, we see those suits on a frequent basis on routine auto accidents that is a fender bender. And the next thing you know, somebody's got a medical issue. So the umbrella, they rate it based on those underlying exposures, but I could tell you the majority of it probably is in our auto premium. Just on the number of units that we have on the road. And assets liability has been increasing from a cost perspective. Some carriers won't even provide 5 million, Liberty does, which is benefit of us not having to go out and get shared limits and aggregate our coverage with other carriers. It's expensive.
Any other questions for you guys? Take it home and study.
There's one there I want to point out in that general liability cyber. So we have $1 million cyber policy.
That new?
No, we've had it for the last couple of years. Yeah.
So does that include when somebody hacks the system and shuts us down, like a ransom payment?
It won't do very good on the ransom. We have like $25,000. There's other cyber policies out there. We still want to look at a more robust one because the cyber breaches are happening more and more and more and more. So that's what they want to try to address this year, is to get something a little bit more robust.
So then what does this part cover?
This one covers $1 million for third party. So if something breached your system and we had to send breach notices out to everyone, it covers that. If someone sues you, it covers that. There's some hardware repair that would cover that. The big thing is you have a breach team that comes in. Once a breach happens, you got a group of people that come in that know that dealt with the dark world. And it might take them a day, it might take them a week, it might take them a month to get it with the people. We had a big one here about a year ago. It was just amazing, people, what they did. Yeah, it was fun. So that's the big one, is having a breach coach to come and help you.
No. It's another sheet with this type of reduction from the same sheet, might be a lot happier.
Yeah, we'll keep on it.
See what you can do, fellas.
Amazing what a weekend does.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Boney and burning property, I guess that's yours.
Very talk about it.
Oh,
We have, last time we talked about Safe Streets for All, but we didn't have somebody that I met with at that meeting. So tonight we have Kyle Gardner is a council member in Orange County, and he was one of the folks that had been at the meeting I was at probably about a month ago now, discussing this proposal about the study for Highway 3. And so I wanted to have Kyle down with everyone's been spearheading this project, but Decatur County and Greensburg could be directly impacted by the project.
Thank you guys for allowing me to infiltrate down here for Rentville. And actually, like Jeremy said, I am a county council member as well as I work for the city of Rushville. So I get to see both sides of it. But first of all, just give a hats off to everyone that actually comes in here. Like, you guys have a great discussion, so keep it up. It's a good back and forth, so you're doing a great job. But really just wanted to come down to give kind of a brief overview of what the Safe Streets for All actually is. It was created, funds were set aside from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And it basically allows two different types of grants for communities to apply for. There's planning grants, which that's what this grant is. And then there's an implementation grant, which hopefully is to follow up after your planning grant. This award was, the city had to apply for it. City of Rushville applied for it. Kind of made sense. We're in the center of between Newcastle and obviously Greensburg. So we applied for it. It's kind of, hey, if we get it, great. If not, we'll find other things to work on. And we were awarded it $787,600 plus the local match between, say, all communities, all entities would be a total of $196,900 for a total of just shy of $1 million. So it was the largest award in the state of Indiana. So, but it is covering a scope of about 43 miles. We're hoping, we met with Newcastle and Henry County. They're both on board and like the idea to go forward. So basically, it's to try to ways to prevent fatalities or serious accidents. So with that, go from other things here, but and kind of just some notes that I throughout every meeting that we've had. Between 2017 and 2021 on this stretch of three, there's been 66 fatalities, and that blows my mind that I would never think that, because I only hear about them in Rush County, so and probably don't even know about all of them in Rush County. And then one thing, just the volume of traffic, and I just say I look at Rushville, I know the best Rushville and Rush County, and the layout of 3 has not changed in a very long time. So of this, I know what it's doing by being more involved with the city. I know what it's doing to our downtown buildings and everything else. It's disintegrating the buildings. So we're in the middle of trying to get a historic building study deal. With that, basically all the partners, like I said, Newcastle, Henry County, Rushville, Rush County, Greensburg, and Decatur County. So we look to form like if it's something, Greensburg's on board, if Decatur County's on board, we look for basically one commissioner and then from each county, and then the mayor of each city, the big cities. And then myself would actually be on there representing Rushville in this situation. Just for them, we're seeing all this fun stuff with working with the federal, it's through the federal highway, and it is very interesting. When our grant administrators say, I've never seen anything like this, that's when they've got years of experience. It's always a challenge there. But so the next step is to create this little committee. No one wants more committees or anything like that, but it would basically be for, we have an RFP drafted and we're trying to finalize that. So it would be in the RFP, we're trying to keep it very generic because, I personally don't know what all would be in a safety study. So I want to receive as much input from consultants, engineers that we possibly can. So, and to go along with different types of engineers and consultants, we got
we went on the NDOT's website and got the list of NDOT approved consultants. So if something came out of this, and NDOT is obviously going to be a huge partner in this, or a huge partner in the result, they want NDOT. It's very specific that they do not want NDOT coming in and taking over this grant. They want it to truly be the entities. But NDOT could play a role at the end of this, and whatever comes of the study. And we didn't want them to have to recreate the wheel. So that's why we wanted, and it's all the big names that I'm sure we all are using anyway. So once committee's created, get the RFP out, we get the drafts back in. We then want this committee would then get together to open them all, score them all, select one, do all the interviews, go through the whole procurement process with that. But yeah, that's really the basic overview. And there's not a lot of fun stuff to say yet, but I'm excited myself just to see, and I watch what I say in the public setting, but like, Rush County is taking the bulk of this, so that's where the most expense would come from, from this 196,000. And then what the other entities would have, they would share some of that, of course. But also we, with our Ready region, with ARI being my mark on there, we're trying, if possible, to make the Ready funds that we could help fund this, at least for the Rushville, Rush County, Decatur County regional part. But that's the broad overview. I know there's when I do resiliency, the newer IU department, they're the ones who kind of put this together for us on what to expect, what it is. They gave a little presentation on it, and they did a little article after we were awarded this, and I shared the positive news, and you got some comments, of different things, people concerned, of what that could be, but with that, I know some people were saying, negative comments, $1 million just for a step. Well, yeah, but if that saved one life, 66 fatalities, that family wouldn't say it was well worth it. And I don't know, I mean, the consultants today are so creative on what they do. So it may not mean, it might just, how to rework something, how to make it more efficient. So that's the piece that I'm most curious about. But after answering something that we get the answers to questions. But it's really, we're in the middle of it, but it's early in the phase that I don't know what that, so we get the request back, I don't know what it's gonna, what are any consultant aspect of it.
Correct. It's 35,000 the number.
It was,
I'm looking forward from Decatur County. Could be either.
yes, it could be, and that's where we're trying to get the scope, and our goal would be that there was one map submitted and it was set for, like, it showed basically an I-70 to I-74. But there's more in the narrative that said that it was really that it's from State Road 38, which would be in Newcastle, all the way down to 421. So that's the ultimate goal, the bigger, more impact we could see. And that would help, of course, down here. Most of the Honda stuff isn't going to come 421 and back north on the bypass, but it would just help, capture, the more we can capture, the better. That was what it cost at the time. But it was just by 34 is what, if that's the I-70 to I-74. Like I said, we would love for that to come out if possible, but it may not be able to. If it does, we would love that to be possible.
A lot more traffic on that road than there used to be.
Yeah, and that's one thing, they just like, news back when I knew they had what is it? Yeah. TS Tech, 300 trucks, one way.
I heard something that
Come straight down.
150 trucks every 24 hours from Maryville, Ohio.
And that's what we we see, and, you know, I don't know where all the traffic is really going, but of course we see it in Rushville. As, you know, NDOT would prefer to take 70 or 65 down 74, well, you know, but that's not happening, and so they're coming down 3 and just trying everything, and I know how it is. I used to work main source down here, and I like Greensburg and Decatur County, but like, it was, you get behind one, you got behind one person doing 50, and there's nowhere to that. And that's the same way going north. It's just, it's pretty flat, more flat north than coming south, but there's been, you know, I throw it out there, there's talks of, you know, is there a bypass in Rushville? Is it a 4-lane? Is it this? You know, no one knows, and I'm not saying that's good. I just want to, you know, what are we talking about? You know, if there's could go right by my house and have an issue there, but like, so it could impact me personally, but just what creative solutions? And one thing in Rushville is CSX, knock on wood, they haven't had too many issues recently, but they were stopping in the middle of Rushville, blocking every intersection for 20 to 30 minutes, but that seemed like 2 to 3 hours.
We know that.
It was just, it's interesting hearing everyone talk about we share some very similar problems that we talk about and you guys are talking about. But yeah, so with that, CSX is an overpass is incredibly expensive, and where do you do it? Where's the right place? But it was legit shutting down every single intersection. And there's nothing we can do against CSX. If you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to let me know, but I'm happy to reach back out and, if we want to, when we create this committee, I can get y'all to anyone of you guys, all of you guys, whatever, just to let you see that once we get that drafted and we get finalized. No,
Thanks. With the amount of
when Diamond Pet Foods opens up, and that's anticipated in early 25, like, it's a good problem to have, that your roads are being overutilized, but that's really not going to faster.
When do you need the answer?
I'm gonna say as soon as possible, but I know, just a tentative commitment would be perfect. No set timeline. We know we're gonna go through with this. It's just one of the partners. And we want your part of the RFP. We want your input during that step. You know, what's the impact?
It's gonna be, been talked about. Never got this far.
And if anything happens, it's not, you know, how, working with NDOT, great partner, but it's the letting process takes, I mean, it's, and to complain yourself.
And what are your thoughts on the funding, mechanism, funding source?
Sounds like a.
That was what I had mentioned to Kyle in our meeting was implementation.
Lord. I'll make a suggestion.
Yeah, Danny.
Hang on, Pete. They still got funds left and they love to spend money on studies. Cause I don't know how many of them were done. And would be my suggestion, to get the OMP committee. I know they've got some cash left over. They have to figure out how they're gonna spend it. Before this year's over, correct?
Correct.
And this is really
Does that have to be spent?
35,000 something else.
I think it's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Are you on
That's just my
your
suggestion.
next meeting?
That would require me to know my schedule without looking at my phone. That's not
So I
possible.
would sound like, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, that you have any rough agreement. You would have to make a form. I don't commit to it, I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you have a general
And we'll work on the actual numbers and confirm what that go through that meeting.
Is it something you guys have ready?
We've ready since that we're.
Dean's got an idea about it already?
We would love to make it. We would love to make this one be part of it. Really. That's where we would like to see the money come from. Free up. Other funds.
All right, our next ARPA meeting is May 28th at 9 a.m. and I will bring it up.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions, we'll like to feel free to reach out.
We'll do.
Thank you.
Patty, can you get this on the June meeting, Commissioner agenda meeting? The June, first one. in June. Yes, thanks, Pat.
May 28th, and ARPA decide they want to do that, we'll have to go to council in June.
That way we can at least get an update. So we don't lose, I just didn't want to lose track.
Brian, any good news for us? A little bit, working with the child care provider, we can land it, then we add another 150 child care seats. Here, that'll be good. Randy's continuing, we're gonna have a meeting with AEC in June 18th. That's gonna be kind of a conversation, it's not necessarily a presentation. And then like for the month of May, actually, we're gonna have a delegation from Indonesia visiting, some of those that we visited previously, just in February, coming to visit, to tour, visit farms. And so you guys might get a call to come shake some hands and build that global relationship.
So I thought that he made an appearance at a county meeting. It's something that it was neat to see the regional partners working together.
Do you have our county credit card with him?
Ryan, well, I've gotten to know Ryan last couple of years. He's excellent.
He's a pretty good guy.
I'm happy to, I will say, I'm really happy. The region's working hard to see it at the state level. It's been ever since.
Yeah. It's nice when you go to a meeting, the governor's there and he can tell you where you're from. That's pretty incredible. Anyone else?
Any updates or timelines for pool design, first phase?
He sent me some questions about lockers, things, different things we're building, but I haven't got it yet. I would think soon. I think it'd be soon.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to recess.
Second.
You are recessed. Thank you all.